The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization Show, the home of Googleization Nation, where we talk with HR and business thought leaders about the crazy shift going on in the world of business, technology, and HR. Here's your host, Ira Wolf, and co-host Keith Campagna.
Hey, welcome back, Googleization Nation, to our 48th episode of Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization this year. We got one more to go. We'll hit 49, and it's been a lot of fun. This show will be no different. We got a great show lined up, lots of news, and a few announcements. So, let's get started. No time to waste. Our guest today is well, go ahead, Keith.
I was going to say, for the record, it's not that we're going to stop at 49. We're going to stop for a year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're booking. So, yep. But that's a lot of shows. Somebody told me if we're going to do a weekly show, it's a ton of work, and it is. But it's been fun, and I can't say it's hard work, but it's been rewarding for sure. And we got another rock star today, HR rock star. We got Craig Fisher from Allegis Global Solutions. We're going to be talking about Workforce 2020, HR Tech, something that Craig calls the universal workforce. We just, before the show we were talking, he just visited the new headquarters of Uber. So that's exciting, which is down in the Dallas area. So Craig will be with us in just a few minutes. But it's been a busy day already. Just a few hours ago, I was sitting on a panel sponsored by Lehigh Valley Business Journal. So I thank them for allowing me to participate. I was joined by 4 other local experts, and we covered a few different topics from cybersecurity to healthcare to mergers and acquisition to just the general economy. Basically had a prediction on what it was going to look like. The title of the panel was Outlook 2020, and there was about 100 or so business people in the room. My focus, of course, was on the workforce, and it was interesting. I was the 4th one to present, but all 4 talked about one of their main concerns. One of their biggest challenges was going to be the workforce. What the outlook was going to be predicated, either their success or their growth or their performance, certainly in healthcare, but cybersecurity, it's a huge problem, skilled labor, mergers and acquisitions. You'll love this part, Keith. This is a great quote from an attorney who does mergers and acquisitions. And just in the Valley, there was like $5 billion of M&A that they were involved in. Which is crazy. But this is what he said. Companies are buying other companies, not for the equipment, but the talent. He advises clients to buy talent and consider the equipment and physical assets that come along with it just as a bonus.
100%. Or maybe even a liability, because at this point the value.
Right. What do you do with the real estate, right? Right.
The human capital is so much more valuable to an organization anymore. It wouldn't surprise me if it's greater than the capital equipment assets.
Yeah. So he may be. We'll have to connect you to, because he may be someone you want to talk to, because they are. And again, I know this. A lot of people cringe. Their hair goes back up on their back, and when you start talking about assigning dollars to the value of people, but in as scarce as it is, with the world as it is, and we need top talent, people just have to value it better. It's not that we're putting a dollar figure on people, but we have to value the people. We've been talking about it a long time. For how long have people been saying that our company's most valuable asset is its people, and yet there's just
they have no idea. No,
Yeah, they have no debt. Yeah, they treat it as an
very real.
expense. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So yeah, it was very interesting because I was the fourth one, and the first three are talking about workforce, and it's like, what am I going to talk about? But it went over. It was really good. So you'll continue to see some highlights on that. And by the way, just for all our listeners and everyone, next week, which is our last show of the year, we've got our first repeat guest. Hopefully, we'll have a lot more of those. But our first repeat guest was Alan Ballou. For those of you who might remember, it was either the end of May or the beginning of June. We talked with Alan. Alan is an economist. He spoke with us, as I said earlier. And I got him to give us his forecast for 2020. And why this is important is not only just to have a good outlook, but his firm, which is ITR Economics, they've been around for about 30 years or so. Over the past 20 years, they have a 95% and higher accuracy rate on their forecast. And over the last year, what he gave in the end of 2018, not on the show, but what they presented to his clients at the end of 2018 was 99+% accurate. So if you want to know what's going to happen next year, be with us next week. Yeah, be with us next week. And again, I don't think it's going to shock a lot of people, but I think that people are thinking, are we going to have a recession, and how's the election going to play into that? And I've heard some people say, we're just holding off a little bit because we think that there's going to be a recession, and there's just going to be a lot of good talent sitting waiting to be picked off. And I got news for you. Listen to next week. I got news for you. That's not such a good plan. And one last thing before we get to Craig. 2 weeks ago, we had Aaron Michelson from Summary. It was a great show. We talked about company culture and individual values and company values and purpose. We introduced the KIND quiz, and for everybody who completed it, thank you. You already know you got a 3-page profile describing your kindness profile, and as I said before, mine turned out to be generous. Keith, yours was discerning, I believe. So from the results, what Summary had done is they did a data-driven donation. And I wasn't sure what this meant until they released the results last week. And we didn't have them in time for the show. We talked about it. But they did a data-driven donation. So from everybody's results, they threw it through their algorithm. And it is an algorithm. It's AI-driven. And they identified what the common kindness profile was from all the listeners who participated, and there was a couple. There wasn't a couple hundred, but there was well over 100 people that participated. And let me just read you the results of what the results, and then what the donation they made. So our kindness cohort, the aggregate of all the profiles, was empathy. Second was agility, which is. I mean, you talk about two buzzwords that are going out in the field today is, we need empathy from the candidate experience and leadership and emotional intelligence, and then agility strategically, and as individuals. So as a community, education was our top support, our cause. Environment was second, and animal rights was very close for third. We see the greatest need locally rather than globally. We view our direct action as advocates and research. Those are the most meaningful ways we have to engage. As a giving cohort, we all prefer to provide services that benefit groups and communities. So we're all on pace. Now, that may be a biased group, obviously, listening to us. That's why they're listening to us. But it's still pretty cool. And the donation was given to a nonprofit organization called Let Kids Be Kids. They are advocates for animal protection and animal rights through education, public speaking, articles, photography, and video. So that was very cool. So thank you, Summary. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for everybody who participated. And for maybe the best news, I spoke with Aaron just a few days ago. I don't even know what day it is of the week anymore, but a few days ago. And she agreed to keep this open for us. So here's the deal. Well, you don't need the www, but the KIND quiz, that's KINDQUIZ, thekindquiz.com, and it's important, add /GGG. This will be up on the website. It's thekindquiz.com/GGG. It's about a 5-minute quiz. It probably takes most people less. You get a 3-page kindness profile. You find out if you're generous or empathetic or altruistic or agile, whatever. There's 10 different profiles. And then we're going to keep that quiz open. So we're going to keep repeating this and building the database a bit. We're going to keep it open through the end of the first quarter in 2020. And then on April Fool's, no joke about this, but on April 1st, 2020, Summary will announce another donation based on the aggregate of all the people who completed. So stay tuned. So we're giving a little bit back. By everybody participating, everybody can learn a little bit more, and we'll do a little bit of our service. Pay it forward.
And I'll tell you what, Erin is as cutting edge as Craig is, because I spent time with her as well, and impressive. If you are in HR
Absolutely.
and you need something to do as it relates to empathy and agility, then check out summary.com, because what they're doing over there is off the charts. And they just announced the Gates Foundation as a client.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was the day our award came out. Yeah.
We want to talk about how to have the right culture. You don't have to reinvent the wheel anymore. Just look at the Gates Foundation.
Yep. If you're serious, I mean, if you're thinking of this is another gimmick, or we're just going to put another poster up on the wall or another award, that's not what this is about. But it's very, very cool. So so let's get to our guest. Craig Fisher. Craig is no stranger to a lot of you. If you don't know who he is, I'm sure you will be following him after this. His LinkedIn profile says he's the head of recruiting innovation for Allegis Global Solutions, and that pretty much sums it up, who he is, especially if you read or follow any of the stuff or listen to any interviews he's been on. So welcome, Craig, to Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization.
Thank you, Ira. Glad to be here.
Hey, so, and just one more thing, because I don't want to slight these guys, because they help us be on the air. Big thanks to Zor.ai, one of our sponsors in Success Performance Solutions, too. You'll hear more about them at the break, but we do appreciate them being part of this. So, Craig, we got a whole lot to talk about. You heard where we are, and I'm sure you can make a few comments on that. But there's something that I'm not going to read this whole paragraph, but I saw something yesterday or the day before it came out. You were quoted about what 2020 was going to look like. And you started out by saying in 2019 and beyond, we continue to evolve the way we think about work, delineating the work to be done by activity. What's the task? What's the outcome? And then you drop down that, that full-time employees or contractors may not be needed in the future, especially for some roles and some tasks. Instead, the task can be owned as a piece of the work portfolio. And I've been talking about reorganizing, what does work mean going forward? So you have a work portfolio by available talent, and then you basically said, some people were talking about it as looking at it as a total talent view of work. You call it the universal workforce. So let's start there, because again, 2020 is, we got all these forecasts, we got all these economies, and it's what's that going to look like? We got this war for talent, which I call the talent. We have talent poverty. I used that phrase this morning. Everybody liked it. I said we have a lot of people. We just have talent poverty around. So let's talk about this. How the future, the definition of work is changing, and that what that means from everybody. I think everything else we're going to talk about falls under that umbrella.
Yeah, absolutely. So my company, Allegis Global Solutions, I work for the RPO side of the business. So we basically take over all the recruiting functions for large Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 organizations and become their internal recruiting workforce. Among other things, recruiting operations, sometimes own the technology piece, that sort of thing. The other side of our house is the managed service provider that manages all the contractors and contract staffing companies in an organization. And one of our RPO customers, who also became an MSP customer, big, massive tech company, consulting firm, DXC Technology, they started looking at ways to sort of serve up available pieces of work to people inside their organization to bid on, to actually say, I can take on some extra work and I'd like to bid on this piece, just like an Upwork or a Fiverr or any other sort of gig economy job would provide, right? And they set out to build an internal engine to do that. But before they could do that, they had to figure out, all right, who are our available people and how do we figure that out? How do we even know what the total workforce looks like? Because if you sit down, if you think about it, if you're a hiring manager or an executive and you sit down and say, all right, I want to get this piece of work done in the next quarter, who are all the available people in my organization to do it, and what do they get paid? What do they look like? And you'd have to look at several different systems in order to try to figure that out, and then get your scratch pad out and start writing down numbers from here and there. There was no way to visualize all that. So we started creating an engine called Quantum Work that basically allows you to take Beeline or Fieldglass, which is your MSP data, right, your contingent workforce data, and integrate it into a system with your HRIS system and your ATS and your CRM and all your available places in one dashboard. So you could say, okay, I've got this piece of work or this job. Who in the entire organization could be available to do some of that work? And so if you're thinking about ready now talent, which is what we're really talking about, that's the only way you could think of to get it all in one place, is just to build an engine for it. And that's what we did. So that's where this whole idea started.
So the three of us have been around for a while, at least the decades since they've been talking about, right, building the talent pool, identifying all the skills, especially for knowledge transfer. What's different about this than trying to map the skills that are available within an organization? Because sometimes you find people that left, they leave an organization and the company doesn't realize they had that talent or that skill until after they left.
That's right. And unless someone's raising their hand for a job internally, you sometimes don't know they're available or have those skills. That's exactly right. Because once a person's in an organization, there's not really a system that updates their skills that they've acquired internally, right? There's no constantly active resume database of your own people. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't happen. You could look on LinkedIn and find that information sometimes, but it's not terribly accurate because gainfully employed people don't tend to update their LinkedIn profiles with their latest skills, right?
So what are you doing differently now? I mean, with this process, with what you're doing, what are you doing differently now that's capturing this versus, or is it just the mindset? I mean, because there's still got to be a way that you capture all these skills.
Yeah, so it's both things. We've actually in this platform, we've integrated open source data tools like Fetcher and Smart Recruiters, and so your current list or database from all your different sources inside your organization and outside your organization. So your potential sources like LinkedIn and the open web and job boards can also be plugged into this, but it refreshes the data of the people who are in your organization. So if you have a name and an email address and that person is currently one of our either contractors or FTEs, it'll go out to the open web and say, this person has all these skills that we've been able to find. Pretty cool.
And Craig, you're also connecting into the HRIS. So if they're tracking certifications, and I know a lot of, for example, the legal industry, technology, people have to get recertified. All that stuff is on record, and now that's getting updated, like you said, way more consistently.
Yes, and Quantum Work is not meant to be a system of record, but more a way to. So think about this. Workforce planning, Ira, you know this very well, doesn't work, right? It's almost impossible to do. Everyone says they do it and they try to do it, but recruiting teams are generally the last to know about changes coming down in an organization. And so you can't plan your funnel planning appropriately because you're the last to know that, oh, hey, we're cutting 2,000 jobs, or, hey, we just acquired a company and we're going to let most of those people go, but we have to rehire all these other people. Or, I've been working on a project with a large auto manufacturer, and they've got an upside down situation in their financial services division where they've got like 70% contractors in IT, and they need to bring them, full-time in-house, but they don't really pay enough to flip that model because those contractors are making a lot of money and they're very embedded. And so how do you do that? How do you even know who all those people are? Because they come from, a myriad, a host of various staffing providers. And so to be able to look at it all in one place, get those skills updated by the external open web tools that are kind of AI driven, it's pretty interesting. And what I like about it is you can see where all your available sources are from internal and external for any kind of job, and understand where to spend your marketing dollars or your tech dollars, because that's where the most available, talent is for what you're trying to do.
It's a true strategy around the human capital piece, and it sounds amazing. And for those of you who already know Craig, this shouldn't shock you that he's sitting at the front line, in the front row of what could be done out there. But I want to kind of change lanes on you, Craig. And today, as it is, you're always in front of the HR people. You're always in front of technology, certainly on the talent acquisition side. How would you describe the gap between what Quantum can do and the current state of talent acquisition?
Right. So what we see, is a bit of a retread of existing technology with different spins on it most of the time, right? When you come out with some new tech, it's not really new. There's not really anything innovative about it. And I wouldn't say that quantum work is actually a new idea, right? We've had the idea to do this for a long time. It's just recently, though, that we've been able to take basically a lightweight feed from any system and integrate it into one place very well. And then visualize it with beautiful pictures and graphs to say to your management, this is what our workforce actually looks like. And HRIS systems and ATS systems have purported to do this for a long time. Workday looks beautiful, things like that. But do they actually work very well? And most of the time, the answer is no.
Right.
So, Craig, one of the things that comes up, so we're pulling all this in, we're finally the technology and maybe the mindset and the attitude and the resources are put behind pulling all this together. And Keith might have answered it a little bit when he said that, that you can update this on the fly real time, with current certifications and things. But how do you verify the skills? I mean, otherwise, aren't we just kind of scanning resumes again or databases, and people say, oh, I'm really good at doing it. I've got this skill or I've completed a certification. Is this on the wish list yet to verify skills, or is that something that is part of the quantum work?
So it's good that you asked that, because I'm real proud of this, and I don't want to be just selling technology on this whole podcast, right? Of course, but we're talking about the total talent mindset, and quantum work, and you can see it at quantum.work. But quantum work is based on our intellect platform, which is a mindset really, and it's a plug and play mindset. So you have your core systems, which are an ATS and a CRM, and then you have a data store in between them that ties things together and pushes data back and forth. And then both those systems act like spokes, and they can have basically any lightweight tech or chatbot or anything else you need plugged in to automate some of the processes. So with quantum work, we have the ability to plug in any assessments tool that you want, for instance. We have MZ data built into the system from right out of the box, so that you can get what the market looks like and how long it should take to fill a type of job. And so if you can dream of it, it can be plugged into this system and incorporated. So to verify those skills, Ira, there's not really a blockchain for skills verification. I don't think there will be. We talked about this, last year and the year before. But I don't really see that as coming to fruition, where candidates own their data and corporations pay to have access to that verification. It's possible, but right now what we have are assessments and basically peer review on LinkedIn. People say, yeah, this guy's good at that. This woman is good at this. And how accurate is that, right? It's not very.
Yeah, it certainly depends on the context of that. So, I mean, it was interesting you brought up blockchain, because I always do that, and I know Ben Eubanks and a couple other people, and in fact, you participated in a question I put out the other day, is like what HR tech was going to kind of be the at the forefront of 2020,
right?
And Ben's response was not blockchain.
Not blockchain. That's right. Exactly.
It was like, we don't know what will be, but we know what won't be.
Yeah.
So right. That's great. Hey, you are listening to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization show. We're with our guest, Craig Fisher from Allegis Global Solutions. We are fascinating conversation talking about maybe we're finally getting to the point where we can look at having a database of people's skills within an organization, and which is changing the definition of how we work and what work looks like. And we didn't even get into how we're going to recruit for that. But we're, as usual, we're talking about some cutting edge emerging trends. We're going to take a short break. We're going to hear from our sponsors, Zor.ai and Success Performance Solutions. So stay right where you are. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Imagine how your company would grow if your candidate experience earned a 99% approval rating. Well, to get to 99%, you need the 3 best letters in recruitment technology, XOR. Zor's text bots, chat bots, and audio bots increased IKEA's candidate conversion rate 455%. Zor decreases candidate drop-off rates, improves your candidate experience, and collects analytics for future strategies. To learn more, check out Zor.ai. That's XOR.ai.
Hi everyone, this is Ira Wolf, author of Recruiting in the Age of Googlization. I'm excited to announce that my online course, Recruitment Marketing for the Accidental Recruiter, is open for business. This course is the culmination of a 2-year-long project and releases recruiting tips I've learned after hundreds of hours of research, speaking with thousands of conference attendees, and interviews with dozens of experts. It's all available to you in Recruitment Marketing for the Accidental Recruiter. To receive more information or get started, visit our website at www.successperformancesolutions.com and click on the tab, Recruitment Marketing for the Accidental Recruiter. Welcome back to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization show. I'm your host, Ira Wolf. I'm here with my co-host, Keith Campagna, and we've got Craig Fisher from Allegis Global Solutions, and we were talking about kind of the future of work. We're going to be talking about the future of recruiting in just a minute. We've been kind of one of the things that's been going on for a long time. I've been in the business 25 years, and from then we were talking about knowledge transfer, and for knowledge transfer, we were trying to figure out how to track skills that everybody had within the organization, and then be able to transfer the knowledge associated with those skills. And 25 years later, Craig, Quantum.work is probably the closest we've gotten to that. So that's where we spent the first part of this segment. But during the break, we were talking about where do we go from here. And Craig, you were talking a little bit about a change in mindset. And I think that's, too often that becomes the buzzword. We've been talking about growth and fixed mindset. I don't know if you've had a chance to read. I just started this the other day. It was recommended by a recruiter, and it's a great book. I read chapters. I don't read books. I read articles. Keith's seen my desk, and I got books like laying all over the place. However, it's Simon Sinek's new book, The Infinite Game. Have you read that?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Nope, it's on my list. I generally have 5 books going at a time. So I
got to tell you, that's how I am as well. But I actually had the opportunity. I was driving down to Lancaster, so it's like a 2-hour drive, and I put it on, and I've literally listened to the first chapter about 4 times. Because in my mind, I got to do it when I'm at a desk, because my mind's racing with ideas. that come up. So it's a great book. But with that's just another mindset. I mean, what I brought that in. It's about a mindset. So you were talking about the mindset, I guess shift that we're going to have in order to really employ quantum work. So let's talk about that a little bit. What did you mean by that?
So if you think about a total talent solution, right now we're very siloed into sort of staffing and contingent labor and then full-time hires. And then you've got this sort of Upwork thing where it's kind of get work done in a gig fashion. And Upwork is really just a contracting firm on steroids, right? It's a contracting firm as a service with some software behind it, which is basically taking that whole model and saying, let's put in an Uber interface to it so that you can easily hire these folks and have them bid on the work. So if you think about putting that all together and saying we're just going to get bits of work done, as you were talking about, right, the universal workforce, does that, put staffing firms and staffing organizations in any kind of peril? And does giving a hiring manager a picture of their total workforce and ready now talent the ability to sort of usurp the recruiting function, right? Because we all know now that if a hiring manager gets a job rec, right, he gets the approval to open a rec, he's going to either go ahead and put that rec in or go through whatever process it is that makes that happen. Or he's going to go out to LinkedIn first and see who he can find that he knows or that, might be easily available to kind of do some research before they put that rec out. And very often they've got a candidate in mind before the rec's even posted. Now, that's not the fair process and that's not the just process and how it's supposed to work, but that's how it does work. And so giving them a tool like a total talent platform, does that say, we're really trying to put recruiters kind of out of the business. We want the power to be in the hands of whoever's doing the hiring. And I have to say the answer is no, because we figured out that chatbots aren't taking our jobs, and mobile phones didn't take our jobs, and the internet didn't take our job, right? So these are all just enhancements. They're efficiencies, and recruiters really don't have anything to worry about. We're just talking about taking the non-recruiting activities out of the recruiter's hands so that they don't have to spend 70% of their time scheduling interviews and things like that, right?
Right. And that goes back to what are they going to do with their time? And their time is to help build a brand, market the employee brand, which always seems to bring us back to the fact of, how are companies being able to actually put in cultures so that they could have a brand to market? And you're just giving them that much more of an opportunity to do that, which is the real need.
It's interesting because if you ask me, I think recruiters should be spending more time on doing intakes with hiring managers, right, and getting to know those teams, because I don't believe a company has any one culture. I think each team in each department is a separate culture. And so these microcultures, if you will, all need to be marketed in a different way. The job description should be written specifically to tailor to what that job actually looks like. And so you don't get these rogue hiring managers selling a job that's not going to actually be what the candidate does once they get in the seat, just because they need to make the hire and get the rec filled and they've got a budget to spend, and so they've got to do their own thing. If you can get some sort of idea that it doesn't necessarily have to be universally the same across the board, but in this department it's going to be like this every time, so that you can start to narrow down your focus on turnover and attrition and good hiring processes and onboarding.
So Craig, there's a whole bunch of stuff you said there. I got like a billion questions here, and I'll try to kind of, Keith knows me too well, so I'll try not to put it all in one.
Can you hear me, Craig?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I think we lost Ira there.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back. Simon Sinek, are you familiar with a lot of his messaging?
Can you hear me now?
I met Simon. He and I have. We got you back, Ira.
Yeah, welcome back, Ira.
Okay.
Yeah, I met Simon. Yeah, okay. We were on a stage together somewhere at one point. Yeah.
So his whole basis of the infinite game is that business is ongoing, and there's a big fabrication about the value of short term. It's only really driven by greedy metrics. which really his whole concept is it's about time companies start taking care of their people. So I think that's really where Ira, is that where you were going with that?
Yeah, well, sort of. I mean, that's one part of it, but we've talked about skills for, a long time. And, so we identified the skills and, whether they're verifiable or not. But what prompted the question, Craig, was you talk about recruiters spending more time on an intake with hiring managers. And I'm all for that. I mean, I'm with you that there's another question, and I'll bring that up later. But I find that companies still don't know what skills make people successful. I mean, technical skills, obviously if there's a technical skill, there's a programming skill. If in healthcare, you have to know how to nurse or, to provide care. But when it comes to like leadership and some of the soft skills and selling skills, it seems that the employers are still struggling even identifying what skills are required. I mean, am I correct, or is that changing?
No, you're absolutely correct. And I think so. We have these sort of psychometric assessments that we use to sort of justify, being a culture fit or being an intellectual fit or whatever for an organization. But they're not necessarily great. I mean, if you look at dating apps, I'm just going to say that there's some margin of error is my point. Yeah, there is, and I think that if you hire agile people, okay, if that's sort of your goal is to be an agile organization, and if you hire agile people. The technical skills can be learned if they have that tech absorption capability, and that is something you can test for, right?
Yeah.
So I think good coders can sort of beat a technical aptitude test, but a technical sort of general ability aptitude test is something that I'm very much in favor of for jobs like that.
Yeah, I think you just made the argument for psychometric testing, though. By the way. Because I mean, we test.
But
I mean, when I
say
evaluate
broader and less specific is my point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because when we test for curiosity and open-mindedness and there's a lot of components because you can be open-minded and you can be agile, you can be curious. But if you're really excitable and you can't stay focused, then what good does it do? So there's a whole mishmash. So I agree with that. So
yeah.
So, but the reason I'm asking that is that, and again, there was a little bit of a debate going on LinkedIn, and something I don't know if I presented it or something else did, is that everybody comes up with these solutions of how to identify skills. The problem is and there was an interview, or I was speaking with somebody who had a startup the other day, and they were saying, they nailed it, that they're able to put it all in this resume, and the question is that the candidate may be accurate at what skills that the employee may be absolutely dead on accurate at what they're good at and what skills they carry. But the employers still don't understand the positions well enough to identify what skills they really need.
Yeah. So, and here's the problem that I have with us talking about employers, right? And the answer to this. Employers is too ambiguous, right? So who's the employer? What person is in charge of writing that job description? And what we get is a bunch of
the attorneys.
Yeah, what we get is a bunch of gobbledygook spit out of an HRIS system that has all of the things that you can and can't say and do attached to it, and it doesn't really make any sense to anyone, right? So there is a need for a sort of, I think, so there's some data that is out there that says that if you're going to do video interviews of jobs, right, for hiring managers or employees or whatever, that most job candidates want to hear from the hiring manager. I think a person's world is basically their team and the management directly above them, and that's their view of the organization. And so and so they want to hear from the hiring manager. And if that's the case, then that hiring manager should be making a short video for every job that's out there talking about why people like to work for him, why his team is good,
I'm laughing
how his
because
team values the organization.
I met with a small staffing firm yesterday, and it was about what things were headed, and that's exactly what I said. I said every one of you, when and again, this is a staffing firm, but every one of you should be introducing yourself because you're the contact, and you should be getting that from the hiring manager that you're representing.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So one other thing here. So again, I think we're all on, we're all on par. You mentioned before, and I tend to agree that the role of the recruiter won't change. But I've seen this, I've seen this, and you've seen it before, both of you. Soon as you say that, we'll still need recruiters, despite all the technology, it's just going to make them better. That a lot of people still go by the job title. There still may be a role of a recruiter. But what the recruiter looks like in 2 years from now, 5 years from now, is going to be very different. Right. The successful recruiter.
And that's HR in general, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think you have a job title and they go, oh, my job's safe because I just read it that recruiters will still be needed. But what they do may look nothing like what they did 5 years ago or what they're doing today.
So I'll tell you an interesting story. On Thursday of last week, before TalentNet, we did a pre-conference that was just HR leaders, it was CHROs and heads of talent acquisition for some major corporations. And we all got together and for 3 hours we talked shop. I asked various questions. We got in round tables and we recorded everything. It's going to be a documentary about where we are with HR and talent acquisition sort of working together and what are the gaps at the end of the second decade of this century, right? So it's really cool conversations came out of it. And it's called A Suite at the Table. And that will end up being a book, and all these people will all be contributing authors to this book, right?
Well done.
Pretty cool stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that's
cool. Yeah, but so the head of talent at Southwest Airlines, Greg Muccio, was there, and he said, and he told me, I had coffee with him a few weeks ago, and he told me what he's doing in his organization, which is turning the recruiters into account representatives or account managers. And so instead of a hiring manager having a different recruiter come at him from all the different parts of the organization for the different types of work he is having to do, he's turning the recruiters into a one-stop shop for everything. So you're going to have recruiters move into various different levels, I think. I think this is going to be a good trend. I like the way he describes it. But a manager now only has to deal with one interface, one person from the recruiting organization for all his different types of jobs. And that person is responsible to know what's going on in the organization, where we are with contracting firms, full-time headcount, things like that, and can give that manager a service. So recruiting as a service, I think, is a kind of a cool new thing, and I just coined that right now.
Sweet. It's an exclusive, people.
Yeah. So those are two new buzzwords that have been coined today. Mine was talent poverty, yours is recruiting as a service.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Perfect. And that'll solve it. Recruiting as a service will solve the talent poverty, right?
So Matt Charney and I used to talk about cloud recruiting a lot, which is sort of this sort of Upwork gig economy type of thing. But then we decided that it'd be funnier if it was clown recruiting. And
more people would understand it.
I think he reserved that URL a while back, so it might be a thing coming up.
Holy cow. Craig, we're coming up at the end here. So before we talk into the outbreak here, how can people get in touch with you? I know you're all over. You've got phenomenal media presence, but how can somebody who maybe doesn't know that yet find you?
Yeah, so I'm highly search engine optimized on LinkedIn, so you can find me, Craig Fisher on LinkedIn. And if you want to know how to search engine optimize your LinkedIn profile or your organizations for all your people, contact me about that because that's one of the things that I do. But I am at FishDogs on Twitter. That is my hacker name in the Matrix. And you can find me also at fishdogs.com is my website, and all my contact info is there. And, I'm out there in the Googles.
And that's FISHDOGS.
Correct, Fish Dogs.
Yep, excellent.
The whole story behind that, I'm sure.
That's for a different show. I'll be your next return.
Well, so Ira, if you don't mind, I'll ask the question. So with that in mind, Craig, let's say we get you back 1 year from now. Mm-hmm. What do you think we'll be talking about?
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about the contraction in hiring that we've already started to see, but we're not admitting to ourselves yet. We'll be in the thick of it by then.
Ooh, now we'll take that, Ira, and we'll match that to what Alan says, and next week, and then we'll have our viewers will get some solid insights here. Nice.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation, for sure. And we'll definitely have you back and see who's right, and see what that means to companies. Obviously, contraction, higher unemployment rate. Is it really going to change things? Is it going to ease it a little bit? That doesn't mean that there's big improvement, but it just eases the pain. So sometimes you can have less pain, but you still got the problem. So we shall see.
And these things are cyclical. We've seen a lot of these, right?
Yep.
We have a lot of variables out there. So hey, one final question for you. You mentioned you got 5 books that you're reading. What's one of them? And what would you recommend?
Well, there's a lot. I just received a book called Loon Shots by Safi Bachel, which is fairly interesting. I read a lot of mystery novels, so right now I'm reading the latest Jack Reacher. It's kind of an action thriller, and it's pretty great as well. Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Excellent.
So any final 30-second final words, Craig?
No, I think it's just impressive how there's so much technology that could be used to streamline, to position a company to grow from the inside out. And you look at that human capital component, there's a lot of change coming. There's going to be a lot of stress involved. Most people don't behave as well as they hope to when they're stressed. So I'll be curious to see what it's like in these next couple as we go into 2020.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot on the table. Again, evolving. Again, we still may have some of the same job titles and same names for processes, but how things get done and what it looks like is going to be dramatically different. And there's still a lot of I was just asked yesterday, do I know anything about this company called Upwork? Mm-hmm. And it's a major player. I mean, I was shocked that I didn't know if they were kidding me because I responded. This was for an interview question. And I said, yeah, I'm really familiar and I've used it several times. And they said, oh, great. We've not heard about it before.
Right.
And I go, oh, man. I mean, we got to, okay, a lot of work to do. So, hey, Craig, appreciate it. I'm sure we're going to run into you a lot in 2020. Wish you having a great holiday. Happy New Year. Thanks for taking the time to be part of the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization show today. And we'll definitely be in touch on the air and off the air.
Thanks for having me on, boys. Appreciate it. I celebrated my 10-year anniversary with TalentNet this last week, and so I'm in a festive mood. I appreciate you guys.
Sweet. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, wonderful.
More to come.
Yeah, congrats. Yeah. Very
Cheers.
Good.
Nice.
Keith,
Cheers.
Anything for the good of
it? Get ready. The shift's coming.
The shift's going to hit everybody's plan next year.
And, we didn't talk about it, but Enrique Rubio, who, was one of our first guests, who was just blown up with Hacking HR, his LinkedIn Live was really impressive as it relates to the lifelong trend of HR lagging behind the industrial evolution. So
here, I got a surprise for you too. We actually, Enrique and I are doing a LinkedIn Live. I don't know the date, so watch for it. But early January. We set the date. I don't remember what it is, so I don't want to give it out. But it's beginning. I think it's the first week in January. So he and I are going to continue that conversation because he was right on the trends. I just disagreed on some of the pathways to get there. But we'll have a really, really good conversation, and hopefully there'll be a lot of people on the line. Yep. So once again, we thank everybody for taking some time out of their day, or whether you're driving in a car or at work, or, doing a workout, or you're listening live. Thanks again for listening to Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization. We're always interested in what's going on your mind. Please share your thoughts if you want to be a guest or a sponsor, or you just want to leave a few comments, you can certainly leave that on the website, geeksgeezers.and.googlization.com, or it's geeksgeezersgoogleization.com. No and in there. You can also connect with me and Keith on LinkedIn and Twitter. Thanks again to Zor.ai and Success Performance Solutions for being our sponsors. We will have our last show for 2019. Hard to believe, Keith. Last show of 2019, next Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, w4cy.com, or you can listen to any of the podcasts or go up to geeksgeezersgoogleization.com, and you can catch all our older past shows this year and last. This is Ira Wolf and Keith Campagna. Don't let the shift hit your plans.